What sorts of behaviors, characteristics, and attitudes are shown as normal, desirable, and natural for boys? Viewed as the social and cultural construction of masculine and feminine identities, roles, norms, and relationships, rather than an unchangeable personality trait grounded in biological sex. Social constructions of femininity and masculinity are challenged through interactions in children's social and cultural environments. Dictionary definition: a boy means the following points. However, what does this definition mean? The word boy, I instantly picture a child. That child is not dressed a certain way or has certain physical traits. The simple dictionary definition of boy, however, develops a perspective of what a boy is. It states a young man who lacks maturity, judgment, etc. This statement has formed into the term be a man. It is forming a basis that all men and boys must be strong, tough, and confident. The definition also highlights the traditional roles in which boys undertake, these being businessmen, military, and gamblers, etc. in today's society. These roles are no longer traditional to boys but both genders. However, the definition is highlighting the perspective that many still withhold. Early adolescence, from ages 10 to 14, is a period of increased expectations for boys and girls to endure to socially constructed and often stereotypical norms that perpetuate gender inequalities. The phrase "be a man" is used constantly throughout social and educational settings. To many people, it is an assumption of being tough. This assumption is based upon how society has created the discussed stereotypes of gender in relation to men and masculinity. The following video shows people from the age of 5 to the age of 50 describing what "be a man" means to them.
Be a man. It took me a while to learn what that meant.
Act tough. Be a man. I don't know what you mean by that. Unafraid. Courage.
Strong. Like if somebody dares them to do something and they won't do it, they say be a man.
Awesome.
Insult. Older.
People have said be a man to me because I was kind of being a wuss and they were basically telling me to buck up.
I feel like it's kind of sexist when someone just says be a man. Well, there's strong women as well.
Strong.
Stupid. It's almost a sexist phrase too, like if you're not being a man, it's kind of saying you're being a woman in a way too.
Take responsibility.
Insulting.
Focused. Because to be a man, you need to be focused and strong and have a good understanding of the world around you so you can be a better person.
Misleading. I've learned that being a man doesn't mean to shut out your feelings, it's to embrace them.
Strong.
First word that popped in my head was derogatory. A lot of people feel that when you're telling someone to be something, you're inherently wrong because people can be anything they want to be.
Someone who's can be a hero to someone.
As long as you own up to it, then I think you kind of define that role.
What does that mean? Well, it seems really kind of one-sided, one-dimensional.
Remember your duty.
Toughen up.
Bullshit. What does that even mean? That's such a vague term, be a man. You know what? Classically, men have beat the shit out of women. That's what men have done. And so that's not the man I want to be.
Being a man is being responsible, is being able to take care of yourself.
Tough.
Provide, secure.
Pump some iron.
To stand up for what you believe in.
There's no real definition of what that is to be a man, but there's an assumption when someone says it like that there is a very clear definition of what men should be.
Strength, conviction.
Responsibility.
Overrated. Well, who defines what a man is? I mean, we all have to walk our own paths. What I consider to make me a man may not be what makes you a man.
For me, it's like hardworking.
Strength.
Sexist. It's a very accepted form of sexism. To be the man, it implies that you need to be something specific.
Silly.
Relative. Honest.
Take ownership.
Cliche.
Choices. Honesty. Being true to yourself and your surroundings, the people you work with, the people you live with, the people you love.
Trust your instincts. Be strong. Don't let people push you around. And be kind to women.
Mask we live in. The following video elaborates on the attitudes and behaviours and barriers believed to be associated with boys and men. The video shows that men should be able to show and discuss their
Stop crying. Stop with the tears.
Don't cry.
Pick yourself up. Stop with the emotions.
Don't be a pussy.
Don't let nobody disrespect you. Be cool and be kind of a dick.
Always keep your mouth
Nobody
shut.
likes a tattletale.
Bros come before hoes.
Don't let your woman run your life.
You bitch.
What a fag.
Get laid. Do something. Be a man.
Be a man.
Grow some balls. The three most destructive words that every man receives when he's a boy is when he's told to be a man.
We've constructed an idea of masculinity in the United States that doesn't give young boys a way to feel secure in their masculinity, so we make them go prove it all the time.
Within their peer group culture, each of them is posturing based on how the other boys are posturing, and what they end up missing is what they each really want, which is just that closeness.
In good times, guys are like really close to each other, but when things get a little bit worse, you're on your own.
From middle school, I had 4 really close friends. Once I kind of went into high school, I struggle finding people I can talk to because I feel like I'm not supposed to get help.
Our kids get up every morning. They have to prepare their mask for how they're gonna walk to school. A lot of our students don't know how to take the mask off. What is it you don't let people see? Almost 90% of you have pain and anger on the back of that paper.
If you never cry, then you have all these feelings stuffed up inside of you, and then you can't get them out.
They really buy into a culture that doesn't value what we've feminized. If we're in a culture that doesn't value caring, doesn't value relationships, doesn't value empathy, you are going to have boys and girls, men and women go crazy.
I had anger issues in high school. I felt like an outcast.
I've been suspended at least once every year I was here.
We would just look for trouble and just like try to fight.
Boys are more likely to act out. They're more likely to become aggressive. Most people miss that as depression or see it as a conduct disorder or just a bad kid.
I felt like just giving up on life. You know, I actually had suicide thoughts in my head at 6th grade.
I felt alone for a long time, and I actually thought about killing myself.
Whether it's homicidal violence or suicidal violence, people resort to such desperate behavior only when they are feeling shamed and humiliated or feel they would be if they didn't prove that they were real men.
If you're told from day one, don't let nobody disrespect you, and this is the way you handle it as a man, respect is linked to violence.
If I can man up, why step down from that, you feel me?
It's like instinct.
So man up! Man up! Man up! Man up! Pull some fucking balls!
Evidence suggests that male behavior is driven by biology and shaped by socialization. According to research conducted by Tony Parrish, all children start off anatomically identical. The introduction of male hormones in children during the 8th week of development begins the development of males. This defines a male in terms of body makeup, e.g. fat disposition and muscle mass, as well as the development of sexual organs. These hormones also change the structure of the brain. The biology of the brain may be impacted by these changes, resulting in differences between boys and girls. For example, Parrish states that boys' attention span is shorter than girls. Boys are more adept at learning spatially than girls. Boys need more physical movement to learn than girls do, and boys' brains need more rest than girls. Ian Paul shares that Michael Mosley of Fast Diet fame presented the evidence that gender difference was biological in origin, whilst Alice Roberts of Coast and numerous archaeological programs presented the evidence that differences were the result of conditioning and environment. Both of these cases seem fairly robust. Mosley conducted an experiment to assess the chance of conditioning and environment affecting boys' and girls' decision, in this case with the choice of toy. The experiment was conducted with monkeys. A girl's toy and a boy's toy were distributed in the monkey's territory. The female monkey picked up the doll and the male monkey picked up the truck. This experiment reflects the intuitive testimony from parents of young children that boys clearly preferred trucks and girls clearly preferred dolls. Mosley made the case that the significant differences in the levels of hormones in men and women must surely affect brain development. Paul states that Alice Roberts went on to present the evidence for shaping of gender roles by the environment. Roberts highlights that parents conform to stereotypes when offering babies toys, and systematically assume baby boys will be better at physical challenges than baby girls. Perceptions about careers and gender roles made by teenagers demonstrates that perceptions are shaped by expectations of one's peers in society. Research by Gina Rippon suggests that gender differences are not as big as people often think, nor consist across cultures. What behaviours are expected of boys within schools? According to Amanda Keddy, social expectations of how boys ought to be is seen within many studies conducted on school disengagement. These studies indicate that boys are expected to defy school rules, be disruptive, engage in rough play, and spend more time in timeout or detention. These common expectations of being a boy replicate these behaviours and tend to be informed by the cherished notion that boys will be boys. Disengagement is understood and addressed, particularly given the perpetuated stereotypes of boys and girls that inform how we see and address this. Boys in schools. There is a large body of evidence that suggests boys experience less success in school than girls, this resulting in a widening gap of academic performance in primary and secondary schools within Australia. Research indicates that within schooling, boys are significantly more disengaged, especially in the area of literacy. In terms of curriculum usefulness, enjoyment of schooling, and teacher responsiveness, boys have a less positive experience of schooling. Behaviour problems are greater exhibited by boys. Australian national studies indicate that 30% of boys permanently drop out of schooling prematurely between 1994 and 1998. Disciplinary actions during school, such as expulsions and bullying, are more subject to boys. Boys are 4 to 5 times more likely to suffer from depression and commit suicide. This research, discussed by Creswell, Rowe, and Withers, highlights that there may be significant differences in biological makeup, socialization, and gender issues between boys and girls. There is no doubt that environment and cultural factors affect men's and women's behaviour, expectations, and roles in society. But there is also little doubt that whatever differences are emphasised by culture or nurture, such differences already have a well-established biological basis. Keddy highlights that if we continue to hold to the view that boys will be boys and continue to affectionately tolerate boys' challenging or violent behaviours, and value them for their physical strength, social dominance, and risk-taking, then we will continue to see any school and any authority behaviours.
All right, a new debate is brewing over a potential gender gap in our education system. Some say schools are being too nice to girls and too harsh with boys. Here are the facts. Preschool boys are nearly 5 times more likely to be expelled than girls. In grades K through 12, boys account for nearly 70% of all suspensions. Are zero-tolerance policies to blame, or is something else going on? Christina Hoff thought about that and wrote a book about it. She is Christina Hoff Summers and is an AEI scholar and author of this book, The War Against Boys. You say the boys are the have-nots in our education system. When did that happen?
Well, boys have always struggled with school, but there has never been a time where it was more difficult for them, because when they start as early as kindergarten or first grade, it's almost as if they exist in a cloud, under a cloud of disapproval, and that's where you get these high suspension rates, because there's just very little tolerance for male rambunctiousness.
Here's, for example, you got this Christopher Marshall. He used a pencil as a gun, gets suspended. Josh Wells cut his Pop-Tart in the shape of a gun. He got suspended. Alex Evans threw an imaginary hand grenade, and that got him in trouble. And, of course, you see there where he's dressed. This is just boys being boys, but now it gets him in too much trouble.
Too much trouble. And, I mean, I understand there was a reason for zero-tolerance policies. We wanted to rid our school of violent children or children dealing with drugs. That's understandable. But this policy has been misapplied, and boys are paying a very high price.
And what is that price?
Well, for example, little boys. And this is true cross-culturally. Their characteristic play is rough and tumble play.
Right.
There's a lot of mock fighting, sound effects. It's a critical part of their socialization. Yet in many schools, boys are not allowed to play that way. They will even be punished. And
The boy gap. Many articles, school documents, journals and books highlight certain ways that boys should be treated and taught throughout schooling to close this gap. However, these strategies may work for some boys, but not all. For example, some boys, based on characteristics, attitudes, and behaviours towards school, could benefit from an opportunity to participate in physical activity, tasks that are short and allow for breaks to assist with engagement, topics that build curiosity and interest, positive reinforcement and encouragement, group activities, and a teacher who does not compare boys to other boys or boys to girls, and a teacher who's open-minded and approachable. Classroom environment could also be changed through creating a classroom environment in which boys and girls feel respected, appreciated, and equal is of utmost importance. Creating an engagement learning environment to overcome high levels of disengagement for both boys and girls. While gender socialization starts at birth, early adolescence is a critical point of intensification in personal gender attitudes as puberty reshapes male and female self-perceptions as well as social expectations from others. It may be that reducing gender differences in attitudes to society is as significant a task in social terms as minimizing gender differences in achievement levels. A post-structuralist approach must be made to this ongoing issue. Meanings are made, however they can be changed, and we can facilitate this change by creating a safe classroom learning environment in which gender, sexual, racial, and ethnic diversity is acknowledged and incorporated into the curriculum.